to another video. Today we are back with my younger brother Cody, and we are watching some Japanese urban legends.
I'm the autistic one.
Here he is. I think the con's so quiet for a second then. Anyway, let's get straight into this. Right.
Sorry, I broke my
First
appendix.
one is a myth called
appendix.
a myth about Gonzu, the cowhead.
Appendix is a thing that can burst in it. It's
Yes.
really painful, yeah. Oh no, man, I felt fucking virus. Who knows? Disappeared. Oh, good God, we're back.
Tamaki Hattori was having a stressful day. He was a teacher of an old boys' school and tasked with chaperoning the school trip to a remote village that held some historical significance. The boys were rowdy and wouldn't listen to their teacher when he told them to behave.
I think I just peed my pants.
Tamaki eventually gave up trying to discipline the students. He then looked outside the window at the passing scenery and the small villages that passed by. The boys continued to create a ruckus, and from the corner of his eye he saw some of them teasing a quiet little boy called Ichiro. Ichiro was a good student, but a timid boy who didn't have any friends. Tamaki watched
He's
the
got
boy
a
get
sock him in
bullied
the door.
and felt bad that he wouldn't stand up for himself. In a way,
I don't know if he's touching him.
Ichiro reminded him a lot of himself when he was young and in school. He knew if he intervened, he would only encourage the boys to pick on Ichiro even more. Tamaki returned his attention to the scenery once more and saw the remains of a cow lying on the side of the road.
I saw a cow digging us.
He had an idea on how to distract the students.
They're different.
He stood and raised his voice
You won't want to milk
to
a
get
cow.
the students'
I mean, you won't
attention.
want to milk a bull.
"I know a story," he said. "A story you've never heard before. Would you like me to tell you?"
Nah,
The
mate, you
students
sound
looked at each
fucking
other, and
retarded.
Tamaki knew he would have
You
to be
look
more
high.
persuasive.
He's Asian,
"It's
isn't
a scary story," he said.
he?
"A story that's forbidden to tell.
He does.
But I will tell you the story if you promise to keep it a secret." The students sat up in rapt attention, each of them intrigued by the teacher's promise to tell a scary story. To Tamaki's relief, the bullies stopped
Can't to
talking
their
to each other
faces.
and sat down in their places. "What's the story then?"
That's the
one of
noise that
students
they usually make an anime in that. These are
Tamaki
Asians, that makes
smiled to
sense.
himself.
Specifically, this is
He told
Japanese.
them of
That's
a
why
man
most
called
anime.
Akio
Old
who lived in a village with his wife and son.
They must hate
After
their
the
child. They
floods
give them
destroyed
a
his
bulk
house,
at the age of
He
2.
decided to travel to the next village in search of food and shelter. But the journey was long and perilous, and the winter
Like me,
was
Dick.
cool.
Like fuck.
He realized he couldn't take his wife and son along the dangerous path ahead, and would have to venture alone and return for them with help. He saw a dead cow on the side of the path and used his knife to slice open its belly.
It's not
He
very nice.
instructed his wife and son to
That's not
take
very
shelter
kosher.
inside it. He also told them that should he not return by summertime,
It's a 6/10.
they should seek shelter
You don't know what they did
elsewhere.
with the internal organs, though.
Akio bade
Well,
farewell
Asian, I probably hate
and
them.
made his way to the next village, braving the cold.
Yes, I can.
and
Jerry,
steep
Asians
path.
fucking spiders.
He finally made it to the next village, but collapsed.
We internal organs are
hunger
the hate
and
it.
exhaustion engulfed him. The villagers were kind enough to
Still
take
factual.
care of him.
Probably.
When he finally woke up, he was still running
He
a
was shaking
fever,
vividly.
and delirium had taken over. The villagers tried to stop him from venturing out and urged him to rest, but he insisted, axe in hand, that he had to find
And
his
you're gonna do what
family.
with the fucking axe?
He returned to the spot where he had left his family, and in his delirious state, he imagined that the cow his wife and son were taking shelter in was actually alive and attacking them.
Got it. He kills his family.
Akio hacked the cow into pieces, killing his wife in the process.
And not the boy.
The son fled before the axe could completely come down again. Akio had gone completely insane now, and ripped off the cow's head.
Well,
and
his bands
wore
or
it.
chopped it off with the yak.
For several days he chased his son,
I'm gonna do this one day.
imagining him to be a monster who killed his family.
One day I'm gonna
Billy
say
came
fuck
from
it
the
and just
village.
turn into a cow demon.
The boys screamed for help, and the villagers gathered. When they saw the man with the cow's head, they attacked and killed him.
Don't blame him.
The
Also,
son
that
was given
accidentally had
refuge in
no
the village where he grew up.
At what point did he clean it?
Years later, he wrote about his father in his diary, and then decided this was not a story he wanted his children to know. He tore
Can't
off the
imagine
pages
why.
and scattered them when he
I
travelled
swear
to
that cat's
another
fucking
city.
nest.
Tamaki ended the story and was amused to find the students were listening to him with
Is he
rapt
amused?
attention.
That proves
He
nothing.
glanced at Ichiro and was surprised to find the
First
boy
one made a
watching
noise.
him intently. His head cocked to
That's
one
not
side and a mysterious smile on his face. That's not what really happened, Ichiro said. That's not the true story of Gozu. His classmates started to make fun of him once more, and Tamaki stood and raised his hands to silence them. Why do you think that? Tamaki asked Ichiro.
He might
How do
be.
you know this isn't a true story? Ichiro smiled. He removed a piece of paper from his pocket and raised it. Because I found the piece of paper on which the story of Gozu was written. His eyes suddenly turned white, and he began to tell the tale
Oh,
of
man.
Gozu. It was so horrifying that his classmates begged him to stop, but Ichiro wouldn't stop narrating the tale. He was a boy, possessed.
Why? Oh,
A day later, when the children hadn't returned, the parents launched a search party to look for the missing schoolchildren. They eventually found the bus lying in a ditch just a couple of kilometers away from the village where Tamaki had seen the dead
I heard
cow.
someone pronounce kilometre or kilometre.
Help was called, and the
Why does that
police
sound
found the
like
school teacher
so
and the
weird?
children all in a
Just
catatonic state
Yeah.
That's
and foaming
weird.
from their mouths. All except one,
They all got rabies.
What happened? Were
Ichiro
they
was
attacked?
sitting
Yeah, I was
alone
about
in
to say,
his
were they
seat,
attacked by like rabies?
smiling.
I mean, an animal with rabies.
Later. When the police questioned Ichiro about what had happened on the bus, he told them he had told his classmates the story of Gozu, and that the driver couldn't take it, and had crashed the bus. When the police asked him to repeat the story, Ichiro smiled at them. Sure, I'll happily tell you the true tale of Gozu, he replied.
Scary.
Yeah, but what's the true story of Gozu?
Don't know, don't care. Goes as shit. Haji Shakasuma.
Yeah, it wasn't very good actually.
Haji Shakasuma.
Oh,
Haji. Fuck. Haji Shakasuma. Haji Shakasuma. Whatever. Japanese bitch is really tall.
Oh yeah, I know you're on about.
I can't pronounce the name, so it's definitely.
I can't remember anything
Oh, it's literally
about
there.
her that much to be
Haji
fair.
Shakasama. Some shit like that. I don't know. It's there. It's gone. Press H. There. Right in the hover. Above holding the roof. The roof.
The 8-foot lady.
The roof is not there.
Right. Next video is the 8-foot lady.
I'm not going to say anything about the other one.
It,
Shit. There you go.
yeah.
Oh, I can really say shit.
In the summer of 1970, Kana, an 8-year-old girl from Tokyo, and her parents traveled to the small town of Aya in Miyazaki Prefecture to visit her grandparents. They had a small
was at
house and a large property which Kana reveled in running around and exploring the lush green and overgrown countryside. Kana's parents had left her in the care of her grandparents as they
Why does she
tended
not
some
look good?
commitments in the city
I
of
should be that
Miyazaki
way.
itself, which Kana did
We
not
shouldn't-
mind at all. She loved the
Didn't
freedom
specify
of
she
being
was
in the wide
Asian.
open
Asian,
spaces
not-
outdoors,
Just said
and
you
would
were
disappear
visiting.
for hours
Her
into
family.
the surrounding
Therefore,
forest.
she'd be Asian.
It was on the second day her parents were gone that
Not
Kana
the
had her
Asian, so
first
an Asian.
unfortunate encounter with Hachishaku-sama. The
Given they're from there,
old
yes, you
lady.
do.
No, you
Kana was
The
just
family are
inside the
from
edge of
Asia.
the
You
forest,
cannot be
happily
from
collecting
Asia if you're not
rocks to
Asian.
take back as souvenirs, when she heard a disturbing sound. Pull, pull, pull.
Hey, poo.
It whispered in a deep masculine voice. Kana looked up towards the source of the sound and froze in fear when she saw a huge woman
Mummy.
dressed in all white, with hair as black as a raven,
Yeah, I quite say
a
that.
cold grey face with an unsettling smile, and a huge hat that cast a shadow
My main question
all
is,
the
why
way
the
down
fuck's her
her
hair so long?
long, 8-foot tall frame. Kana and the woman locked eyes briefly
My
as
question is, how
Kana
can you
tried to
tell
find her
she's
voice
she
to
is
call out,
physically
but she could barely breathe, let alone make a sound. Then the woman backed
Also,
away
8
and
foot is not
disappeared
that
into
tall.
the dark
That's all I'm
shadows
saying.
of the forest behind her. Kana, struggling to get her
I
legs
don't
to
mean
work
to be
properly,
a dick,
ran
but
back
that
to
is
the farmhouse immediately
Think about it.
and told her grandma
7 foot
what
is
she had
that
seen.
door thing. 8 foot would be the
Once
roof.
Kana's story had been properly relayed and the
Which is
gravity
nowhere
of
near
the
that tall.
situation set in, her grandma's
Well,
demeanor
roughly that
quickly
tall, at
became
least.
deadly serious.
Maybe
She
not
grabbed
roughly.
Kana by the arms and demanded to know exactly what she had seen
Oh wait,
and heard.
Not yet.
As Kana explained,
1,
her grandma
2,
began to weep.
4.
The grandmother quickly relayed what had happened to her husband, who, in shock, rushed to the phone to try and contact Kana's parents. They were not at their hotel, and so a message was left with the concierge. Now scared and confused, asked what was going on, and why everyone
I was
seemed
expecting to be
to be
about
in
the
such a
fucking
panic.
roof.
Her grandfather sat her
Just
down
pick that down.
and stared deep into her eyes. Listen closely, Kana,
It's in my
he
fucking
started.
phone, pretty sure.
It seems
Yeah,
you've been
that's correct,
treated
it would
by
be the roof.
Hachisaku-sama,
I was
and unless
unnecessarily.
we can protect you,
So nowhere near that
you,
full.
like
8 foot women do
several
not
other children in
appear
this
above
area,
the fucking
decades
tree
ago,
line, dickheads.
Kana was now in tears.
They woke.
She had just been told terrified her, yet she couldn't help but want to know more. Who is Hachishaku-sama? He then asked. Her grandfather tried to
Some
explain.
bitch that's like overly.
No one knows
not that
her
tall.
origins, he said. Only that this 8-foot woman selects her victims by quietly approaching them, then chanting a pull,
Boom.
pull,
Boom.
pull, pull
That's probably
sound
every
before
single one of those.
retreating. Within a few days, that person will disappear. She was supposedly captured by some local monks who imprisoned her in an old shrine by placing a
People need to
Jesus
see that.
statue at north,
Shh, never.
south,
No, they
east,
don't.
and
Yes,
west
they do.
points of the ruin. It appeared, however, that somehow Hachishaku-sama has escaped. Kana was then taken into
my
the most
question being, how
secure
the fuck
room
do
in
you
the
end up
house.
losing a
The windows were
fucking woman?
boarded up, and small balls
And
of
it sits
pure
out.
salt were placed in each corner of
Looks
the
like
room.
rice.
You must not leave this room,
Smack.
not under any circumstances, her grandmother strictly instructed. Never? Kana's voice trembled.
No, never.
Not until your parents return to take you home, she replied. Then I'll be safe? Kana
Oh, my
asked.
neck.
Yes. Her grandmother sighed as her gaze
Yes.
dropped to the floor. Then you'll be safe.
No, you're definitely
However, you
alive,
can never ever return to Miyazaki. I began to cry as her grandmother left the room. Don't leave me, she wailed. Her grandma explained that she could not stay within the room, and for Kana to be sure to lock the door once it was closed. Night fell over the countryside, and Kana, alone and cold in the dimly lit room, sobbed quietly, wondering when her parents would return to take her home. Several hours into the cold night, she heard her grandfather call out to her.
being haunted.
Kana, are you okay? If you're scared, I can come in to keep you company.
Yeah.
You don't have to be all alone. Open the door.
I think that is probably worth like 5
Kana
quid.
leapt up and moved over to the door to unlock it, but then was overcome with an icy chill as she approached and realized that something
I'd
was
probably
wrong.
resell this
Her
individually.
grandfather's
for about 5
voice
quid.
was somehow different. Open up, the grandfather asked again.
No.
It's safe now.
That
Kana
doesn't look
looked
like
at her
salt, it looks like
side,
rice.
and she could
They're
see
very
the salt in the
fucking
bowl slowly turning black as she heard the sound.
Boom. Boom.
Pull,
Boom.
pull, pull, emanating from the other side of the door. She backed away into the center of the room and cried uncontrollably for the rest of the night. Morning eventually arrived, and so did Kana's parents, who quickly took her into their arms and into their car. They exited Miyazaki immediately, sadly, never to return. Once back in Tokyo, Kana kept in touch with her grandparents, and she felt an eternal sorrow that she would never be able to visit them again, and that they were too elderly to travel. This sorrow was even further amplified when several years later, her grandfather passed away, and she was unable to attend his funeral.
Where's the
Yeah,
grandfather?
fact.
Just last
Because
week,
women always live longer.
Kana's
Men are
grandmother
fucking
called to give her some terrible news. She'd been diagnosed with cancer. Her grandmother then asked Kana if she would come see her one last time before she died. Kana was confused. Grandma,
It's
not safe. It's fine, her grandmother went
I'm
on.
scared.
That all happened a long time ago. You're all grown up now. I'm sure it will be fine.
Unless you had that.
Are you sure? Kana asked. I'm sure, came the reply, along with the bone-chilling pull, pull, pull,
Bumhole.
which made Kana drop the bone, retreat into the corner of the room, and relive the horrific feeling she had felt that night when she was in her grandparents' home, alone, in the dark.
Well, turn on the fucking light, you dickhead. Doesn't be in the dark. Light switches do exist for a good reason. That girl's getting groomed.
Okay, cannot say that.
Look at it! And it's fine. Groomed means to clean or look after the hygiene of an animal.
Right, this next anime is
Again,
from the same.
First of all,
This next
don't give me an
urban
anime.
legend is from the same Nightmare Tales.
Second of all, not gonna comment on that one either. No. You're a really bad commentary YouTuber.
About
You
the
just don't
Teke
do the commentary.
Teke.
You know why she's called that?
Cold December morning, but
It's
as
the
she
noise
was
of her
fixing
inside
sun
scraping on the
rise,
floor.
She stepped out into the street from her home, with the door quickly snapping shut behind her. Her mother called to her from behind the door. Shiho,
So get
don't
my
forget
train.
the cake. Your father is coming home early tonight especially. Make sure you get it early. Whatever you do, don't get caught up in the peak hour rush. The cake. Her father's birthday, of course. It had to be this week of all
What
weeks.
the fuck? Why does
The week she
Bullbrand have
and
a
some of
Twitter
her
and Facebook?
classmates had been assigned to clean the school drains after lessons.
Who's gonna
She
follow
didn't dare
smoking
tell her
van
mother
on
the reason
Facebook?
why. She grunted back to her mother before lifting her scarf over her nose and mouth and setting off for the train station. It was a 10-minute walk to the station.
I'm
However,
questioning
it
why she
always
put the
felt a
scarf on,
lot
because it can't
longer
be
no
dark,
matter
she's
what the
wearing
weather,
fucking
due to the
skirts.
large stairway that required ascension from the front of the apartment block
That's
to
fucking
the busy
dog shit
streets
fashion, mate.
beyond.
Sorry, but it is.
Shiho made it to the station just as the train
Oh,
was arriving. She had seemed to have managed to develop somewhat of a sixth sense with regards to when the trains would be arriving, and happily stepped into the warmth of the train car's steel shell. Her school, however, was not as luxurious. It was fully
I know that
equipped
looks
with
like a
working
pretty nice
heaters.
school.
However, the school opted not to switch
Never
them
heard of
on.
that
They
one.
were never able to secure the budget to run them. You could be sure, though, that the principal's office did not feel the pinch of the purse strings, though. And Shiho had managed to find this out firsthand when she was brought in front of him in the week prior to explain why she had colluded with fellow students in order to cheat on a test. Shiho was in
My
fact
finger has
innocent,
cancer, it's got a random lump
but a
in it.
cruel twist of fate saw the notes that were passed around end up in her hands right as the teacher looked up from her book. She had no defense. Being the child of a Japanese mother and an American father already put her in a lower class among the eyes of the purest faculty. Plus,
They're
she was
racist.
an average student at best,
Jesus
so the
Christ.
need to cheat
They are!
was indefensible. She was
They're
at a
literally
loss.
doing it against
I was
her
agreeing
half
with
now.
you.
The other tests had been collected. Those students' papers showing the answer on the note, which was incorrect, were also to be punished in line with Shiho. At 3 p.m., lessons were adjourned and they got to work. It was hard and filthy work. The heavy concrete drain covers had to be dragged back, and then the drain walls and floor were scraped to remove the clammy, deep green muck that had been growing there over the summer.
Unless they are.
This was then shoveled into a bin to be dumped out
I'm
later.
pretty sure they made of metal.
From the very first cover, Shiho and her classmates were well and truly over this laborious task. And an hour in, tempers began to flare,
I feel like a school
was
can't
getting
force you
dark.
to clean up.
and the
Literal
cold began
shit.
to numb their fingers and toes. Kasu, one of the
Probably
rougher
not.
boys in the class, snapped,
Well,
and he screamed at Shiho
Who knows
that this
what's
was all
going
her
on there.
fault. He yelled that a pure-blood Japanese person would never have gotten them caught, so she should just do them all a favor
Racism.
and die.
Jesus.
He punctuated this with a large shovel full of cold, dark scum, which exploded into her face and leached
That's just
into her
mean.
hair and
Jesus.
clothes.
Shut
The
the
entire class erupted into a cacophony of laughter as she stood there in stunned silence, trying to process what had just happened.
I have
A feeling of pure
idea.
rage
Stab
overcame
him.
her, and she
See him do it
screamed
again.
out at the entire group before turning and running off into the darkness. Katsu shouted at her repeatedly to get back to work, and that this was her fault that they were
just smashed
here,
him over the head with a
until she
shovel.
was out of sight
Again.
and long gone.
Then again.
She ran all the way
I
to the
see him
train station,
speak. Okay, so
not caring about the myriad of disapproving looks she was garnering from all around her.
well,
She
she
just
looks
wanted
well
to get
pissed.
home and get into a nice
Got that big
hot
old
bath.
frown on her.
People gave her a wide berth, which she thought was just great. Perhaps she would even get an entire train car to herself. Then she remembered the cake. Her mother's words about avoiding peak hour echoed in her head. However, she had no choice. It was either return home with it or return home without it. Ruin her father's birthday and explain the events that contributed to the reasons why. She tidied herself up in the train station toilet as best she could, and then went to collect the cake. The cake shop owner asked her to stand outside as she went to get her the cake.
I'm
She owed
pretty
him
sure
zero
that
sympathy.
the mic is actually picking up the audio.
By the time she had made her way back to the station platform, the entire
That's what it
area
was,
was
I thought.
ridiculously
I
crowded.
thought he had a knife.
Perfect, she thought. Of course,
I'm
the
pretty sure that
station
is a
went out in every way
That's a
I could
newspaper.
possibly imagine.
Is
I
it?
didn't want it
See
to.
the paper next, the rest of
The
the
fellow
paper next to
commuter,
it.
No, no, no.
tired and
Also,
impatient
I
with
thought-
her own
oh, yeah,
taxing
okay.
time in their own small
That
world.
woman there with the blue
Made it
dress,
very
blue
clear
dress.
to Shio that she reeked of
But just a
alcohol
little
odor
bit high up in it.
and needed to keep away from them. On the platform, she was bustled around repeatedly, and she was mindful of not losing her balance or
All I'm
crushing
getting
the
from this
cake.
is that people in Japan are
It was all
dicks.
for naught, though, for as the train approached, the crush of humans had pushed her right to the edge, and with no hands free to hold on to anything or anyone,
Murderous bitch.
fell right
I mean-
into the path of the oncoming train.
I don't know, I feel like you could have just dropped the cake. I
The
feel like
tunnel
more
was
would understand if
filled
you
with
dropped the
the
cake
eerie
to save
shriek of
yourself from
steel
it.
and steel as
That's
the body was barreled
Jesus.
underneath the train and sliced
That
in
was a
half,
bit excessive. I've seen videos of people getting sliced by trains. That's not how bloody it
then
gets.
fell silent for Shiho.
Okay.
Very graphic
What was
organs.
that again? Those organs look a bit too
They're only
realistic for a
child.
cartoon.
Gone forever. And from this lot, they never truly
Shorty's fault.
How is it?
cool friends.
They bullied
however,
her
got
for
over the
being a
loss very
half-caste.
quickly. In fact,
Jimmy, that was
not
her
even a day
parents.
had passed before jokes began to circulate about her death.
Jimmy, her parents are the reason she was half-caste. Why would they make fun of her?
She used to be.
No, the parents are the reason the school kids made fun of her.
Oh no! I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that they fell in love with each other and had a child. No, they shouldn't have.
Hey,
Half-casting several girls.
also
I-
hilarious. Their last day on Earth, though, spent finishing off the last of the train cleaning before they
I read advice.
headed off to
You
the
sit there and
station
think about what you just
to
said.
catch the train.
I stick by my guns. I'm just saying I can't
They
say that
finished
stuff on
quite
you.
late, and by this time the station was
Not
deserted. Or so they thought.
Bam. He really no
As they
work.
sat in silence,
That's that.
exhausted from the afternoon's labour, a chilling teke-teke sound echoed through the tunnel
That baby's sick.
and made them all turn to each
That
other.
baby's
in
getting
shock.
lit.
What the hell was that? One of the boys asked. No idea. Another said.
That's a noise she makes when she's.
Then they heard it again. It's coming from over there. One of the girls screamed as she pointed off.
Not sure how
into
they
the
can say
darkness.
that sounds like teke.
Again. The sound became even clearer as the features of the silhouette they were
Where did this
fixated on
silhouette
slowly
Where did this
came into
fucking
view.
See?
the scythe come
I still have
She-
no idea. I have no idea why that
She was
is where
dragging
that
herself
is
along the
and where it
ground
came
with a
from.
huge
Because it doesn't make
scythe
any
in
sense
her
to
hand.
what's happened.
The students tried to run, but Shio was too fast as she launched
She-
herself at them to slice each and every one of them in half as they screamed for their
I could have
mothers.
sworn
I mean,
the reason she did this was because she was bullied into being
But they
pushed
all
onto the
lay there
tracks.
dying, a massive pool of blood.
it
Shio
was.
laughed
I'm pretty sure there's like
and said,
stories of it, maybe.
"So now you know how it feels."
Though I've definitely heard
to
more
be
of
half Japanese.
her being pushed on the tracks by bullies, so I'm pretty sure that's the actual. So this guy just got messed up. It's hard.
Right then. I actually quite enjoy the Take one, to be fair.
Sekateke is one of my favourite versions because it's just like it's just funny. She gets shit flicked at her and then bullied into falling into train tracks. What's not funny about that?
Everything?
Damn, she literally died as a shithead. See, you can't say it's not funny if you
Right.
laugh.
Anyway, thank you for all for watching. Don't forget to like and
Jamie, you're missing
subscribe.
the best one, Shinkansen. That's the fucking bullet train, I'm a retard.
Thank
I'm
you for
gonna
watching.
say,
Have a nice night.
Kuchisaka Noma.
Bye.